such a big game, a battle that just can't be won. Life is such a long game, and we've only just begun. Life is such a hard game, yet this challenge is so fun. Life level 1.
Spencer, my man.
What's up?
Hello. Thank you for being here. Thanks for coming on such short notice.
Word.
The time has been flying for me. I did not realize that April was almost over, and I try to do one of these once a month, and eventually, hopefully, it'll be, 2 a month, and then 3 a month, and I'll be doing one a week.
Right.
And then it'll be my full-time job. At some point. That's the dream, right?
Gotta live it.
Yeah. So I appreciate you coming, and we're going to have some steak after this and enjoy the night, I guess.
Sounds
all to
good.
ourselves.
Yeah, it was kind of nice. Get a guy's night.
Yeah. You're listening to Life Level 1. My name is Brian McConnell, and I'm here with Spencer Bowcut. What have you been up to? Anything cool lately?
Not a whole lot. Vegas was cool recently. Got to go for my 4th anniversary, so that was legit.
Nice. You want to tell us a little bit about that?
Yeah, we hadn't been on vacation in a while due to the whole pandemic thing or whatever, being cooped up at home, so it was about time. Got some free rooms through that M-Life program and just took off and had a few days in Vegas. Had a pool day and massage at the spa. Had a nice dinner. It was pretty great, actually. We had a good time. So,
What's the M-Life program? What is that?
it's just one of those like membership things. You sign up and they take all your information, track everything, what you're spending, where you're going, all that stuff. And then you get comp points and things like that out of it. So
Okay, cool. Yeah, I've had good experiences with Vegas, and just like everybody else, I've had some pretty horrible ones as well.
that's Vegas.
Yeah. I almost caught the bug. I don't know if I'm sure you've been there because I've heard
Caught
that
the bug meaning that's got 2 different meanings now after the pandemic, right?
Good point. Yeah. No, nothing sexual. No, nothing sexual. No VD or anything.
No, I meant like catch the gambling bug versus COVID bug. Right?
Oh yeah. That's the bug I was talking about. Was the gambling one.
Gotcha.
I've
got that bug real bad.
Yeah. I did the whole thing of I just lost $200-$300. I'm gonna run to the ATM real quick, and I was like,
yeah.
Why are you gonna? Why? I was thinking in my head, why are you doing this? And I was at the ATM pulling out money that I really did not have budgeted to lose, and I think I ended up losing all that too.
Oh man, that's the thing with gambling. You got to save up money that you're willing to lose, then go gamble, and don't go over that.
Yeah. No, that was the original plan, and I lost it all and thought I could win it back. Of course, just like everybody thinks.
That's how they built Vegas, right?
Yeah. And you were telling me that one of your favorite games was roulette.
Yes, yeah. Roulette, craps, I like them all, but roulette's one of the ones I can, it works for me mentally that I can actually sit down and work it out, that I can generally do well enough that I have a good time or pay for something else, generally come back in the positive.
Yeah. Yeah, that's kind of my thoughts about roulette. I think that's why I like it so much, is it doesn't require a lot of mental capacity. You can kind of just sit there, zone out, get drunk, have a good time, throw money down wherever you want, really. And that's how I ended up losing all my money.
Right? I was just going to say I got my ass handed to me on roulette on this last trip because I didn't go with my normal betting style. I kind of did that. I kind of went wild, like, hey, we're here on fun time and this is money I don't care about, so let's play it not safe and see, go for the big reward, but that's all right.
With roulette, I see 2 colors. It's like, is it red or black? Red or black? Red or black? I need to put some chips down now.
That's the best way to play for me, man. I don't even play red. I just stick on black and just keep playing black.
I'm like, it's going to be black. It's going to be black. So I put all my money on there. It's green. It goes green.
You got to watch out for that too, yeah.
Yeah. But it's a good...
Although I did notice, like, some of the games have gotten a little even more towards the house's edge as of late. Like, they used to just have one green on the roulette wheel, and then 5 years ago, 6 years ago, there was 2 greens. All of a sudden now I go and there's 3.
There's 3 greens now?
3 greens. Yeah, they've got a 0, a double 0, and then something that looks like a infinity symbol or something.
Okay.
But it's like a 3rd green, so even more to the house's edge, right? If you're betting red and black, or even odd.
Yeah,
because it doesn't count as an even or odd if it's a 0 or an infinity sign.
Yeah.
So
with how much money they lost from COVID, and by they I mean obviously Las Vegas and Nevada as a whole, I'm surprised that little green square isn't just like a little symbol of a COVID virus like on there.
Yeah, they definitely got hit pretty hard economically, but I think that they're starting to come back from that. I heard a lot of rumors that their governor is trying to push to have them opened, pretty soon, by June anyway or something, at full capacity, but with social distancing and masks where required. I'm sure. I don't know. I didn't get that into it. I was in Vegas. I was trying to drink and have a good time.
yeah, of course. When I think about Vegas, I obviously think about the lights and the shows and all of that, but I also think about the casinos and how there's just a bunch of smoke and then people sitting there for hours on end, not really providing themselves with nutrition. And whatever nutrition they're getting, it's probably not very good for them.
Yeah, highly concentrated sugars, right? Pure alcohol.
Yeah, it seems like it'd be the worst place for a pandemic type outbreak to occur personally, but I'm perfectly cool with things opening up. Just like you, and everybody else. Yeah, this past year was kind of sickening on all sorts of levels.
Rough, man. Rough.
Yeah, everybody's already aware of that. Did you win some money?
Yeah, I work as a cashier, so I like to rifle through the bills and find any that have 777s on them and then save those and take those as my lucky money to go gamble with in Vegas. So yeah, one of the machines, I had one of those lucky dollars and I was just $1 bill, put it in the machine and walked away with like $250, and would have kept gambling, but we were already kind of on the move. And when you make $250 off a dollar, it's time to go. It actually went up to like $270, but I kept playing for a minute, right, to get it down to $250, and then I was like, all right, let's take that and go. And we used that money to kind of gamble with later on. So yeah, it was pretty dope.
Hell yeah, the 777 idea. That's pretty clever.
Right.
I like it.
Yeah, I've been into coin collecting and whatnot for a while, so that kind of plays in with being a cashier. It's kind of nice.
Now you're into Dogecoin collecting.
Oh man, yeah, that was nice too.
Dogecoin to the moon.
Had a little Doge experience during our vacation. I hadn't checked on any of my finances because we already had, our vacation money, our budget put out. So everything else was just kind of at home doing its thing, and I wasn't checking on it for like a week and looked at it, and it was like way, way up. So that was pretty awesome. Have money coming in from all sides, right? Like gambling winnings, retirement fund tripling, getting paid while being on vacation. It was a pretty good time. That's kind of why we stopped gambling. Is like, why take the chance to hemorrhage money when you already got money coming in? So
no, that's a smart man, dude.
But yeah, we did other fun things. We went, like I said, we had a pool day. We went to Tender. That's right, everybody go to Tender. That place
I thought you were
amazing.
talking about that sex app.
No, not Tinder. Tender. It's a steakhouse in the Luxor, and it's amazing. I highly recommend it. We try to go on our anniversary every year. Get the steak. You won't be disappointed.
Oh, that's another thing you were telling me. You and your wife get a portrait of you or a picture of you in front of the Luxor every time you go to Vegas. Yeah. And you're going to start like a little collage.
Yeah, we've started doing that. Unfortunately, we won't get a 2020 picture in there, but we got our 19 and our 2021. So.
Oh, okay. Very cool.
Yeah.
Yeah, and I had a bad experience with steak too when I was in Vegas. I spent $52 on like a 12-ounce steak. I took like 4 bites, and I was so hungover from the previous 3 days of drinking that I didn't eat the rest of the steak. I just went to the toilet and just threw up.
Ooh.
I don't know what it was, but just like a couple bites of steak, which normally my body is all about. And it was like, oh, now's the time to purge.
Let me ask you, did you have any of the like free bread or any kind of carbs before you took in the protein on all that alcohol?
I'm sure I had a little bit, but yeah, the alcohol was I just went too hard for too long. And the whole month prior to that, I was on a strict diet and I was working out real hardcore to impress a girl that we were going with.
Yeah.
Turns out the girl that we went with ended up being a lesbian and was there with her girlfriend.
Even harder to impress.
I know, I was working out my pecs, but I didn't have boobs, and
I feel you.
Can't really work out your dick to turn into a vagina or anything.
Right,
so.
right. That would be an interesting workout.
So yeah, it was a good time. It was just I got lucky that I invited some of my friends too, because we went with her circle.
Yeah.
And it was one of those things where her circle wasn't accepting of me because I'm heterosexual. It was sort of like the opposite of being homophobic. They were like almost a little heterophobic. At least one of them was. And fortunately enough, yeah, my friends came and we turned it around and ended up having a good time again.
Nice. Man, I don't like hearing bad stories about Vegas. It's too easy to have a good time in Vegas. If you're not having a good time in Vegas, maybe you've got other issues going on or something. I don't know. And I'm not saying like negative towards you, just like maybe you've got a lot of other things going on, right? Like,
I certainly do, and I certainly did at that time. I've had some great stories since. The last time I went was actually for work, believe it or not.
Oh, nice.
Like, people on the video can't see it right now, but this shadow box that I have
that thing is awesome, man.
Of one of the games that I released, Friday the 13th, they flew a few of us out to Vegas to sign a whole bunch of copies of that game. And
dude, legit.
Like Harry Manfredini, Tom Savini, Kane Hodder, and Sean Cunningham, we were all sitting in the same room, passing like thousands. I don't know if it was quite 1,000. I think it was a couple thousand of those cases around, just signing our name. And it was one of those things where you sign your name, slide it, sign your name, slide it, sign your name, slide it. But Harry Manfredini, he's the one that developed the score for Friday the 13th.
Okay. Yeah.
He wrote a score on every single box. Every single box that we signed, I don't know, I'm just guessing, it was probably like 1,500. He wrote multiple lines and then one of those I don't know what that musical symbol,
like a treble clef or whatever.
Yeah, whatever it is, but that symbol that kind of looks like a cursive capital S at the beginning of the lines, and then drew some little notes. He did all of that and then signed his name at the bottom on every single one of these.
Wow.
And it's just a clear sign of how dedicated he is to producing good work and providing something memorable for his fans.
Truth.
That's just really cool. And I was obviously there with people that I liked and enjoyed hanging out with. And so we went gambling. We went to Rhino, which is a great strip club. Yeah, we had a great time.
Nice.
So I think it's just like going on a trip to Las Vegas. You have to kind of treat it just like you're going on a psychedelic trip. I feel
sometimes
you have to be in the right setting, or
depends on your company too, man.
Company, that's what I
meant.
Yeah.
You know,
by the setting, you have to be with good company,
right? Because
Las Vegas itself is kind of like a psychedelic trip in comparison to the other major cities in the United States. You know, there's some main reasons why you go to Vegas that you wouldn't go to other places for specifically.
Right.
And so, yeah, I have had good times in Vegas. It's also one of those things where if you go with certain expectations and they're a little high and you don't meet those expectations, then obviously you're going to be kind of bummed out.
Man, I feel that's like a metaphor for fucking life right there.
Yeah.
I'm telling you, if you got these great expectations and then for whatever reason you don't match them, it's always a bummer, man. Especially when you are on vacation and you're supposed to be wilding out and having a great time. Anything kind of interrupts that. I could see where that becomes a big bummer, man.
Yeah, that's a good point, actually. I think some people kind of treat going to Vegas like work, and it's not supposed to be work. It's supposed to be vacation. And they're going there with this idea that they can collect a paycheck.
That's the odd thing about Vegas, though. Like, sometimes you are there for work to collect a paycheck, you know, and then there's always that like itch, like, ooh, man, I could win big while I'm here, right?
Yeah.
Like, if I just put a few bucks here, a few bucks there, whatever, I might hit something big. That's the draw, I guess, of Vegas. I don't know. I'm a gambler, so a lot of people go for other things, right? Like distraction from daily life, strip clubs. Everybody likes the strip clubs. I don't know. Everybody goes for their own reasons, that's for sure.
Yeah.
My goal when I go to Vegas is to have a good time. It's not to go win a bunch of money. Like, that's, you know, like, there's a chance of it, but I don't know. I know I have a problem with gambling, so I don't allow myself to go all buck wild, right? Like,
Mm-hmm.
I don't know. All right, our family has an emergency fund, and where more appropriate than in Vegas would you need your emergency cash fund with you, right? So like, we brought a whole bunch of cash to Vegas, but we didn't like use that for gambling or whatever. We had all that other separate cash that I had told you about that I'd saved up for gambling and whatever. So I don't know, I set myself a limit, and I try to control myself because I know I've got a problem with it, but
Yeah.
you know.
No, that's really smart. That's just like any properly balanced budget. It takes willpower to stick to it. But that's the whole point of a budget, is so that you have freedom in other areas.
Oh yeah, it's actually, I don't know, man. Like, that's the best way to put it. It's freedom, right? Like, all of a sudden, if I have $400-500 that I can gamble, it's not even a big deal if it goes away, right? Like, that's awesome.
Yeah.
There's been points in my life where I wouldn't have that opportunity, right? So
Yeah. Now, I'm curious, when you say that you specifically have a problem with gambling, do you have any examples, or can you explain that a little bit farther?
I have a fascination with numbers, not to the point where I'm like super good at math or anything. Just I like the idea of odds, to where I'll even just play craps by myself with a couple of dice and no craps board or anything, right? Just like, I know what the point is, I know what the board looks like, I know
Just
what
to
I'm
like on
trying
a
to do.
blank table to
Just
practice?
on a blank table, just to play. But as to the problem with gambling, I guess I know that I get like that dopamine rush when I win. Winning's fun, right? It's awesome to put down some money and to get that rush to win big. And that's exactly why you were at the ATM.
Yes.
Because you just had lost $300 and you're like, but man, I could win so much more than that if I just win one time, right? If I put $10 down on 16 on the roulette wheel, that's 35, you know, that's what, $350. That would more than make up for my loss. Then I just got to do it one more time. I'm doubled up. I've got that bad, right? So that's kind of why I set myself limits on that.
Well, that's
I
kind of why
wouldn't say it's a problem because I keep it under control, right? But
that's exactly what I was going to say.
it's the same thing with like my nicotine use, right? Like, I went 7 years with having like maybe 2 cigarettes, and then all of a sudden I'm smoking a half a pack a day, you know, for 3 weeks. Then I'll quit again.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah. So with the gambling thing, it sounds like you actually don't have a problem. It sounds like you know the effects, you know the potential negative effects, maybe from experiencing it before.
Yeah.
And you know how to develop the willpower that's required in order to keep yourself from throwing more money down than you had budgeted.
Well, yeah. I mean, that's just more wisdom than knowledge, right? Like, I've learned that lesson the hard way. I've definitely been that person that has gone back and kept trying to win and win and win, and had like a huge, not huge, but like, you know, more money than I could afford to lose situation in Vegas. I've had a lot of good times in Vegas too, though. Actually, the time that I lost a bunch of money wasn't even in Vegas. It was at one of those Native American casinos in Wyoming. So.
Yeah. I mean, yeah, any potential to lose money is going to be at any kind of casino.
Right.
Yeah, I would like to go back. I think last time I was there, I told myself, I think I've gotten enough of this, but it's one of those things where I think everyone should experience it. And then once you do experience it and you realize that, yes, you can have a good time, there is an appeal to it.
I say to anybody that may need some advice about Vegas, who does, but anyway, is to go without gambling. Like, take a non-gambling trip to Vegas and do whatever else there is to do in Vegas. And there's a lot, and just whatever you like to do, right? Like indoor skydiving, go-karts, anything and everything that you can think of. They're really close to a lot of outdoor activities, a lot of four-wheel off-roading stuff that you can do in your vehicle. There's a raceway there, an international raceway that does like NASCAR and drag racing, and everything happens in Vegas. There's a convention center for anything that you can think of, and when they get that back up and going, SEMA, SHOT Show, all those huge things that come in to Vegas every year that are just amazing things to go and do. You don't have to gamble in Vegas to have a good time. And for the most part, I mean, it was this way when I was there. You can still walk around on the strip with alcohol in your hand, and nobody thinks that you're any different than anybody else there, right? Like, you're just somebody that's there to have a good time. So
that's actually a wonderful piece of advice. There were so many shows I wanted to go to. I wanted to see Penn Jillette, Penn and Teller,
right,
when I went last time, and they unfortunately had that week off, that week that I went.
That's funny. Carrot Top and us did that this time.
Oh yeah, you wanted to go see Carrot Top. No. I wanted to see Carrot Top too. My dad said that he's actually really, really great.
Yeah.
And of course he is. He has a show in Vegas. Like, of course it's going to be somewhat
right.
good,
I've seen
right?
a lot of his old stuff when I was like younger, and it was all on like MTV and whatever else, right? He was pretty funny, but I would like to see his new stuff.
So that's a great piece of advice. Go without gambling. In fact, I recommend that people take a vacation to go to Las Vegas strictly to just drink water, eat salad and steak, and just run and lift weights. Just go to get in shape.
Man,
how ironic would that be?
if that's what you're into in your lifestyle and that's what you like doing on a daily basis, man, I recommend it. It really doesn't even have to be Vegas. Just any awesome venue outside of your house, go do that for a while, right? Like, that's what vacation should be, is doing the things that really bring you joy, because you need that break from the fucking daily grind, man. I'm telling.
Mm-hmm. If you can make the daily grind something you enjoy, like I actually do like my job. I still consider it a grind, or I still consider it in quotes work, because obviously I don't want to spend my entire business week in my basement.
Right.
But if you can make it something that is somewhat enjoyable, that's also really nice. Do you tip a lot when you go to Vegas?
Man, that's the key to Vegas, man. If you don't know the secret, you tip everybody in Vegas. And I'm not even saying you have to tip well, but just anything like there are no door people in Vegas because of the COVID thing anymore, but you can't even valet your car because of COVID. But anybody that helps you out, if you're checking in at the front desk, tip them. If you use the bag service to get your bags up to your room, tip that person. If you get a drink from a cocktail waitress, you tip that person. If you're gaming, always tip your dealers. Tip. They know who you are. Every time you go to Vegas, they know who you are. There's facial recognition everywhere, and all of these computer systems are all linked with all of our information. They know who you are before you ever even get into the casino, right? Like, once you're on their property, they have a good idea of who you are, what kind of money you have to throw down or don't throw down, what you're going to throw down based on previous experience, especially if you're hooked up on that M-Life card, right? They know all of your bets and everything. Sometimes I don't even put my card in the slot machine just to see, if I might have better odds without. Doesn't really seem to change things, but where was I going with that? Like,
yeah, it just sounds like tipping is certainly the way to go.
We were talking about tipping. Yeah, it will make your experience a lot better because they will be happier that you were there, right?
Yeah.
Like, I tip cashiers when you've just won a bunch of money or lost a bunch of whatever it is. When you take your chips over and get them changed in for cash, I always tip those people. Tip the M Life people. I tip everybody, and I'm a big tipper in life. Like if I go out just to dinner or whatever, and somebody requires a tip, I'll leave change at the gas station, right? Like not that I consider that a tip, but it's something, right?
Yeah.
Like,
no, that's interesting. The reason why I asked is because when I was winning, when I was on like a winning streak and I'd win multiple times in a row, I would throw a chip at the dealer, and it was usually a $5 chip because that's what I was playing with, was the minimum $5 chips.
right.
And I didn't realize it until the next day, but I probably tipped this one dealer, like 60 or maybe even like $80, and I didn't even think about it because I was just throwing her a chip every so often. But if you were to go out to eat, a $60 tip, that's a big tip. I mean, maybe not in Vegas. That sounds like
it's a decent tip anywhere, right?
A decent tip in Vegas, but
I don't know how most people are in Vegas. I don't know how most people are with their money. In most cases, I don't care. But I would say most people in Vegas are going to tip like they normally would, or unless they just won big, right? If they're down, they're certainly not going to be tipping big. Generally, I don't care if I'm down because I can afford to lose that money. And we have other money set aside, not just for gambling, but for like the actual trip, right? You got to pay for rooms, gas, food, all this comes up. So don't just depend on a credit card.
Oh, man.
That is not the best way to go to Vegas.
I want to say I don't even use my credit card anymore, but I actually do. Kristen and I, we use our credit cards, but strictly knowing that we're going to pay it off that month.
I was just going to say that. Yeah.
Just so I can get the Amazon points
or
whatever
we
points.
Signed up for like a MasterCard that is connected to that M Life thing, and everything, we use it for everything and just pay it off every month because it gives us a ton of points. We had like $411 worth of comp things built, like comp dollars built up. So paid for our steak dinner, paid for our drinks at the pool, helped pay for part of our room. You can't pay for like the resort fees and the taxes with it or anything like that, and you can't tip with it, but they'll let you do like even money gambling with it, so dollar for dollar you can just go get free gambling money. So
for the general person though, I recommend not even having a credit card though. I
No,
mean, if you already have one, don't close it because that's just going to lower your credit score.
Right.
But if you're thinking about opening one up, unless you have like a business that you're starting up or something that you're willing to go into debt for, it's not going to be worth it in the long run. Those $5 that I earn maybe a month to throw at some sort of Amazon book that I'm buying is not worth the risk and the interest that I've paid in the past on credit cards.
Yeah.
Because it's sort of like gambling a little bit. You take out a credit card and then there's this thought of, I can pay it back, or maybe you're not really keeping track of your expenses, and then
got to have that self-control.
Yeah, for sure. And Kristen and I, we're doing really good with the whole budgeting thing, and we'll be debt-free by the end of this year, and I plan on donating a lot more, which is basically tipping to friends, Yeah. So
that's true. Yeah, we're working our plan. We got a financial plan. We're looking for land right now. Cheap land in Colorado, so it's a long, drawn out process, right? A lot of looking. There's not a lot of cheap land that's good, so.
Yeah, and then there's the whole building process that comes on top of that too.
I'm ready for that, but I mean that's one of those. You're always ready for something until it shows up, kind of a deal, right? And then you're like, oh, maybe this is more than I can chew. But I'm a real DIY guy, so I just kind of plow through all that.
That's actually what I was just thinking about. Is I have some fairly expensive hobbies, and I know that you also have some fairly expensive hobbies.
Yes.
And yet it's funny how stereotypically women are often considered the more materialistic gender when it comes to Western civilization thought processes. But I have my addiction to shoes, for example. It's just a different kind of addiction. I want my rock climbing shoes. I want my, obviously some dress shoes, but
right.
I want my cleats for when I play football. I want all those shoes.
I feel you.
And then I'm more materialistic than Kristen, I guess is what I'm saying. Like, I love my podcasting equipment. I love my computer stuff. I love buying tools because I love working with wood.
A tool for every job, man. I'm telling you.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And then this is the reason why I try to avoid cars. Just the idea of anything automobile related. I mean, I've done some self repairs and stuff.
Take $100 bills and chuck them at
it. but that is the reason why I've avoided that. Is it's too expensive of a hobby.
It's very expensive
for me right now, anyway.
Yeah, it's something I've kind of put on hold for a little bit during this whole look for land situation. Just because it is expensive, so.
It's a fun one, though. In high school, in shop class, this is the closest I can relate. In high school and shop class, we were assigned, I think it was like a 6-week project or an 11-week project or something, and you had to take apart a 5-horsepower 1-cylinder engine piece by piece. You had to take all the pieces apart, lay them out, and you had to name them. You had to label them correctly or whatever. And then once you were done with that, you had to put the whole engine back together and get it running again.
Nice.
And I learned so much just from this 5-horsepower 1-cylinder engine, which also happened to be this almost the same engine that I had on my go-kart at the time.
Yeah.
And I've done a few repairs, and I've been able to label parts within like the hood, looking at cars and stuff.
Yeah.
Just because of that little assignment. It's the same thing.
Oh, definitely.
It's a V1, I guess, is what it would it even be called a V1?
I don't think so. Maybe an inline one or single cylinder or something like that.
Does the V in like V8 or V6, does the V mean that there's the pistons? Is that supposed to be what it is?
Yeah, yeah. So you can have like an inline 4 where all the pistons go straight up and down.
Okay.
Porsche makes like a H pattern or flat crank, they call it, where they oppose each other to keep it balanced. And then like a V8 or a V6, they do it because of engine space constraints, basically, right? Like they want the engine to be taller, then they want it to be wider. So they just have the pistons oppose each other with counterweights on the crankshaft.
And it looks like a V when you're looking at it from the front.
From the front or the rear, yeah.
It's funny. I never knew that. I just thought of that now as I asked, like, would this 1-cylinder be a V1? That doesn't make any sense because you only have half the V.
Yeah.
But yeah, that's interesting. How do you feel about the uprising of electric vehicles?
I got to see one of the early Teslas when it was still kind of, I mean, it was just out of production, but it was still brand new, and it was a big event to show up in a Tesla, right? And was thoroughly impressed. Just the outstanding numbers that you can get from, like torque numbers from these engines. So in performance numbers, that it's just huge. So I was way interested in Tesla when it first came out. Since then, it's become a lot like the iPhone, right? Like, it's just the thing to have, which is interesting because they're kind of, both companies have been headed by the same person, right? So they kind of got that same vibe. Isn't that right? Didn't Elon have something to do with...
No, I think he was thinking about selling to Apple at one point, selling Tesla to Apple, but I guess it didn't go through.
Well, they run along the same kind of marketing lines, right? Like, you got to have this. You can't live without this. You need this because everybody else has got this sort of thing.
Well, it's interesting you say that because I was kind of thinking a very similar thing, whereas a lot of software development out there that's free is open source. So people can download the code, update it a little bit, and then upload their little piece to the website, and then it keeps building upon the community. The community can help build this thing. With things like Apple and Tesla, it's all closed source. You can't see the code. You don't know what they're doing. You don't know what they're tracking. They have all of this information. And I suppose there's pros and cons to both. My fear, I suppose, is if your Tesla breaks down, the only way that you can get it repaired is to take it to a Tesla repair shop.
That right to repair thing is huge right now, especially in the computer world.
Oh, the right to repair. I forgot that was like a whole thing now.
It is, yeah.
Yeah. Oh,
I can't believe Tesla's not part of that yet, or maybe they are, and they're just one of those like silent not partners, but...
It's funny, I didn't even think about that, but you're right.
Because that's going to become a huge thing. A lot of automotive people are actually pushing that way to try to get it so that you have to bring your vehicle back to their specialist to be worked on.
Mm-hmm. Well, they want to keep the money in the family or in the company.
Yeah, business-wise, that's brilliant, right? Like, if your thing breaks, you have to come back and get it fixed by us. And it only costs a few $1,000s more to get the new upgrade, so why don't you go ahead and just buy something new, right?
Just charge it to a credit card.
Right. Oh, man. It's only 4 more years. Don't worry about it. It'll be all right. But going back to the electric question, I don't think it's a bad thing. I think that right now, especially with the EPA and I'm trying to remember the name of the group. I think it's SEMA actually that's actually fighting for it, but they're really trying to restrict emissions and any kind of alteration to your vehicle emissions. So they're trying to push that, like, if your vehicle was created as a street vehicle, or you cannot put any kind of race parts on it, this, that, and the other. And I'm against all that, right? Like, I'm way into racing. My truck is modified. The car that I've owned before that is modified. My wife's vehicle is not because she won't let me. But the next vehicle that I get is going to be modified. I have a race engine. Well, it was a Mustang engine to begin with, but I've, modified it into a race engine to stuff it into some race project later down the road. I don't like the idea that they're trying to push so hard for the electrical vehicle, that they're, the electric vehicles, that they're going to push out all of the old combustion engines. I work at a gas station, right? Like, I see this guy come in his Tesla every morning, and I keep thinking to myself, man, there's a huge business opportunity here for somebody to create a convenience store that is not a gas station, but it's just all electric chargers for all these idiots in their Teslas to go in the morning to get their coffee and all the convenience store stuff that has nothing to do with gas, and just have like some kind of quick charge station or something where they can pull in for 5 minutes and their car gets a quarter charge or half a charge on their battery or whatever while they're getting their coffee and their donuts in the morning. Huge business opportunity for somebody. But that's only going to pander to people with electric cars. So if they really want to push the industry that way, I'm sure this is coming in the future. But as for right now, I drive a 1977 F-150 with a giant V8, and it takes premium fuel. It's not an industry that I'm willing to give up right now, right? Like, I work at a gas station. I drive a gas guzzling vehicle. I love it. I want to go do more of it. Electric cars are great and they're fun. They explode, right? We're back to the Pinto days, right? Oh, yeah.
Yeah, I have driven a few Teslas. I love them. They're the smartphones of vehicles. They're
amazing. And
they're the best vehicles, in my opinion.
Well, I mean, they had that for a while. They're probably still up there, but I mean, everybody else is getting on the electric game now too. So what they really have is user interface. Like you said, it's the smartphone of vehicles. Like, if you jump into a Ford hybrid right now, it still feels kind of clunky. Even the new electric Fords, they still feel like they're kind of back in the 1900s, right? Like, you're jumping into something that was supposed to be a combustion engine vehicle, and now it's just been converted to electric. Whereas when you get in a Tesla, it has a completely different vibe, right? Like you feel like you're in the 21st century. It does things for you.
Yeah, and all that was intentional for obvious reasons.
They did a great job with it. But some of these other manufacturers are starting to kind of catch up, right? Maybe not Ford isn't the best example, but I'm a Ford guy, so.
Yeah, the one thing that Tesla has going over these other electric car or companies that are creating electric cars is they have the infrastructure for the charging stations, the supercharging stations. And it's sad that they're not willing to figure out some sort of compromise to allow each other to charge. Like, do you remember when you first got a cell phone and it had a special charger for that one cell phone and you couldn't charge your phone unless you found someone with that exact phone?
Nokia, yeah, or whatever, right?
I'm worried that that's how it's going to be for a while with the whole charging stations for these electric vehicles. And you can't just plug in some sort of adapter. They used to sell these cheap adapters that you could plug any phone, and it was annoying because you had to like figure out, where's the A male slot and the A female slot and plug them in so that you can get it plugged into your phone.
Now instead of a $100 phone, it's an $80,000 car. So if you buy one of those cheap adapters and it fries your battery, right, you're out a lot more than you would be on a phone.
Yeah. And there's only one other company that you can take it to for the repairs.
Right.
There's no competitive
repair.
So, yes, I love the Teslas. I love the electric vehicles.
Me too.
However, it's a little bit of a cult. It's got a little bit of a cult following. I feel like everybody thinks that if you drive a you're polluting the environment. But
they're not wrong. It smells like gas everywhere I go. I promise.
They are not wrong. That is for sure. I'm not a climate change denier by any means. What I'm saying is you need both. Right now,
that's what I'm saying is we can't force the industry into the electric. I mean, it's good that we're selling electric cars, we're bringing it up, but you can't just say, hey, everybody that has an internal combustion engine, all of a sudden your investment is out the window, right? Like, think of people that, like Jay Leno, that have huge car collections, that if all of a sudden you couldn't drive any one of them on the street anymore because they've been modified or whatever. A lot of his are probably stock and would probably get away with that, but anyone that modifies theirs in any way, like Ken Block or the Hoonigans, any of those guys that really get into modifying, all the roadkill guys, anything like that, they're pushing that it's going to be 100% illegal right now. It's going on. So,
damn, that's what's happening?
Yes.
Holy shit.
So, like, my truck, even though, I bought it as a cheap project to keep it as a cheap project, I love that I can use hand tools and fix it myself without a computer. And the tools fit in the truck so I can have them with me in case it breaks down anywhere. I like that about my truck. There's such a different feel between the industry of back then and what is now. Like, they tried to build things that would last somebody the rest of their life because they knew that person was investing enough money this is the second largest purchase of your life for most people, right? If you're not already well off or have some kind of huge income, your house and your car are your biggest expenses in your life. And your car is the second biggest expense. So it should last you quite a while, right? 5-10 years now. That's about how long a car makes it. I can't say anything about like the new Teslas and how long they last because they're just too new, right? Like, some people have problems, some people don't. Same thing with every new product. Only time will tell how long they're really going to last. But in the idea of longevity, I guarantee that an engine that runs off gasoline, as long as the gasoline is well enough to ignite, it's going to work. If there's no mechanical problem, you can let it sit in a garage for however long, and if it doesn't leak, it's going to work. Whereas anything that's on a battery, everything that has a battery right now, if it's not plugged in and charging, it is dying. It is literally losing charge as we speak, even if it's really well grounded and buffered from any kind of leakage. Any battery leaks. Like, think of anything that you own that has a battery in it, it's dying right now. So the same goes for cars, and batteries have a shelf life that just really doesn't last. So the big component for electric cars right now is that they are literally designed to be a 10, 15-year investment, and then you've got to do it all over again.
Yeah, I didn't even think about the longevity thing, but that does provide one of the points that I wanted to make. I grew up on a farm, pretty much, and you need a reliable vehicle that when you want to start it, it needs to start. And
it doesn't matter if it's 40 degrees below or 120 degrees, you need that thing to start.
Mm-hmm.
Batteries require a current charge to keep them up to temp in the freezing temperatures, right? So
that's what I was going to say, is in the United States, the people that grow our food, they need, as of right now, they really need the gasoline-powered vehicles. The battery-powered vehicles are great for anyone commuting 40 minutes a day to work, which, what is that even more? What even is that anymore? Like, we can work from home now, it seems like. But, yeah, if you're commuting long distances in, like, near a city where there's people that can help you and tow trucks available within, 10, 15, 20 minutes, that's a great option. And, yes, I think that's the best option. But when it comes to these smaller towns that are working out in the middle of nowhere, pretty much, you can't have a battery-powered pickup truck try to help pull, a sprinkler head or a sprinkler out of a mud track. Like, if it's stuck in there, you need some high-powered gasoline-powered vehicles. Now, maybe in the future, the batteries will be able to provide enough power and also last long enough and be reliable enough that farmers can use them. But right now, it's important that the rural area, which is often forgotten about because they're less technological, I suppose, less online, although everything's changing nowadays, they need that stuff. And another point that I wanted to make is it's these gasoline companies, these oil companies, that are actually providing a lot of the funding for the green energy research right now.
That's true.
They're trying to capitalize on that, and they have the money to do so.
I think for them, they see the industry changing, and they just want to keep up with the times, right? If you want to stay in business, you got to stay ahead of business. So,
I do think that it's ridiculous that I've been driving a van up until the prior year. I've been driving a van back and forth between my home and work every day, and I always told myself I would get a Tesla as soon as I could afford one. Like, I'm glad that things are changing and that people have that option now to get a good, reliable, battery-powered vehicle in order to commute those distances. But then there's all this other stuff that comes with it, just like you were saying earlier. And
I mean, for me right now, it's not the perfect answer. It's really not. I mean, there's a lot of pollution that comes along with the electric grid. You plug your phone or your car into the wall, that electricity comes from somewhere. While we have hydro and solar electrical plants out there, it's really not the main source. The main source for our energy grid is coal at this moment. Supposedly there's going to be some advancements in smaller nuclear. Hopefully I'm not a big fan of nuclear.
I've heard great things. Obviously, when it goes bad, it goes real bad.
That's the issue there, man. And I don't know. Obviously, as we learn more, it gets safer and safer. But there doesn't seem to be one solid answer, and I think that's the key to the issue, is that there shouldn't be just one key, right? Like, we should be focusing on all these things. Like, you should be able to have an internal combustion lawnmower versus a battery lawnmower if you want. If that's your situation. If your lawnmower, like you said, if you're rural, you're out on the farm, your lawnmower is going to be sitting in a barn. That barn may not even have electric in it, right? It might not have electricity in it, so it's just going to be sitting there. If it has a battery, it's going to be dead. You don't want to have to haul your electric lawnmower in the back of your truck from wherever you need to charge it out to where you need to use it. You want that thing to be reliable. You just pull a cord, boom, it starts up. So I think that we can do better with efficiency on internal combustion engines. I think that we really need to look into hydrogen because there's far less
pollution
and emissions with that, and it's a very strong combustible fuel source that's really easy to come by. And as well as that, you would still be able to use the main mechanics of an internal combustion engine just being tuned, right? Like if they can use kerosene and oil and propane and compressed natural gas to make a combustion engine run, they can certainly use hydrogen or any other flammable gas, right? All you need is a little pop to push a piston down, and multiply that by however many torques
cylinders you have.
Yeah, however much you need. So electric is awesome. And phenomenal torque, great power, right? The longevity. If you could have an electric car that was constantly locked into the grid so that it didn't have to run off a battery, like an old slot car system or something like that, or the old trolley trains that they used to run through San Francisco with the big wires, but not overhead because that's dumb. But, actually like built into the ground, something that wouldn't be able to shock somebody from just touching it, but would also be able to supply enough power to allow a monorail or any of those trolleys or just a regular, like I said, you could buy a car and there could literally be just like an old slot car. It could just have a chunk of metal that comes down and you can lock into the grid and get charged whatever commute fee by the mile.
Oh, geez, that actually
and you
scares
would
me.
never, ever, ever have to worry about your battery dying.
Yeah,
I mean,
but a commute fee, that's...
well, you pay that now.
I get it.
You pay that now. If you want to jump onto the toll road to save time or the express lane, people are already doing that and they don't care, right? They make enough money that it's not a big deal. So,
you think of any of those futuristic movies? I'm thinking of that one with Tom Cruise where he's
Total Recall.
He's a time cop kind of thing where he can see the future through these naked ladies. What is that? I can't remember what it's called.
I know what you're talking about, but I don't remember the movie. I've only seen it once, and
it was a really good movie. But you think of those kind of movies,
Oracles or whatever they were called.
Yeah,
right?
yeah. You think of those kind of movies, and every time you see a highway, it is that. It is these like cars that people are just sitting around in these little bubbles that are traveling super fast speeds on these futuristic tracks.
Yeah.
And that's kind of what I was saying is
maglev tracks. Yep.
Yeah.
Just take you there.
Yeah, and that's what I was saying with these electric vehicles. They're perfect for commuting within and around a city.
Oh yeah.
I really liked what you said about how there's not one answer to the energy source problem.
Oh no, not at all.
And you're absolutely correct. I like the idea of nuclear now that we kind of have it figured out. We've certainly made some mistakes, but it is a very, very good energy source. I mean, as far as the amount of energy that it provides.
It's definitely very potent. I agree with that.
One thing that I've heard, and this is kind of a problem. We have introduced a lot of those wind turbines that collect wind energy, and we've got other forms of clean energy coming in, and that's great. That's wonderful. The problem with it is it's not replacing the energy that we were getting from coal. It's adding on top of it. So we're actually, even though we have cleaner sources to provide us energy, we as a race are still using more energy. So it's not like we've cut back on the coal energy usage because we've gotten those clean energies. It's just we're leaving the lights on more because we're using the same amount of coal that we were, but now we're using more, and that's what's providing the energy. Yeah,
and with everything becoming electrified and the Internet of Things, right, where your toaster has to talk to your cell phone to tell you that your toast is ready or whatever, it's just going to get worse, man. It's multiplying rapidly, the use of energy that we require. If you think back to the 1800s before there was electricity, they had to get energy from other means, right? Like they used a stream to make a mill, like a water wheel to turn a mill or whatever.
I want one of those, by the way. That would be super badass, wouldn't it?
They always talk about like the 0 point energy and all this stuff. Like what is gravity? Gravity is always a continual force, right? We need to work on something gravity related.
It's like a cat with a piece of buttered toast on its back, and it just continually spins. Have you ever seen that meme?
Yeah, that'd be a good one, because, which side's it going to land on? Figured it out.
Dude, you making that joke about the toaster that has to talk to you, I've got a really funny story. I think it's funny anyway.
All right.
I was outside with my kid during my lunch break the other day, and one of my neighbors had just pulled out of her garage, and she pulled up next to my sidewalk so that her and I could communicate through her open window. And she said, "Hey, my garage door isn't closing. Would you mind just kind of keeping an eye on it, making sure that no one goes into my garage, basically, and steals my stuff?" And it's because she was trying to use the app on her phone that was connected to her garage door opener. That was the problem. I said, "Well, I could just walk over there and push the button on the inside of the garage for you if you want." And she said, "Oh, I didn't even think about that. I can do that. Don't worry about it." And then she reversed back. I just thought it was interesting because she had her cell phone there and she's trying to push the buttons on her cell phone, but she didn't even think, "Oh, I can get out of my car and go to the source that's connected via line." It's a simple push button. That didn't even occur to her. It's almost like if she could just like have some sort of voice box hooked up to that button in her car, and she could just yell out her window, "Hey, can you shut garage door? Can you shut for me?" Like that. Yeah, a clapper. Like that. That sounds like the type of thing that would work for her, because that was her next idea, was to pull up to her neighbor and ask her neighbor to be her security guy for her. Because she couldn't close her garage door, but she didn't think about plan B. I just thought it was funny. I'm not making fun of the lady. She's a very nice lady. But it's just interesting that that's kind of where, and my mind has been stuck in places like that too, where it's like, oh, I feel like I can do this, but why can't I do this? And I'll go talk to someone, and they'll be like, "Oh, you dummy. Like, you just hit this button."
Right. Sometimes it just takes a fresh perspective.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah. So I wanted to talk more about you and your racing hobby and all of that. That's kind of why I brought the whole car thing up.
Okay.
Just because that's so fascinating to me. We don't have too much time left, but
sure. Yeah.
Have you raced before?
I have done some drag racing at like a 8th Mile hometown drag strip in Evanston, Wyoming, where I come from. Hypoxia Dragway. So if you're ever out there and you want to go get some elevation sickness, check it out. Your vehicle will too. I promise you'll lose 30 to 40% of all your horsepower because of the elevation and the thin air. So
wow, I didn't even think that that's a thing, but I guess it makes sense. If it's hard for humans to breathe in high altitude, it's certainly going to be hard for a combustion engine to
and that's
breathe
all
as
a combustion engine is a glorified air pump. It's literally pulling air in to combust it and breathe it out. So if there's less air,
but pistons,
less air fuel ratio, right? So
yeah, pistons are basically the lungs of the vehicle.
It's truth. Yeah.
So have you ever done any illegal racing, like just on the street?
Well, yeah.
Who hasn't?
who likes horsepower and doesn't do some illegal horse racing? I mean, illegal street racing.
I've done a little bit as well. I don't condone it, but I also very much find the fun in it. So
I come from one of the most rural, like it's the least populated state in America, as far as I know. Less than 500,000 people in the entire state, and it's huge. Okay, so we're not just talking about like Maine or Delaware or something like that. It's a massive state, right? And there are many, many, many dirt roads and wide open places to go out and have fun where, yes, technically, I guess it's illegal, but I mean, in the reality of things, the worst you're going to do is maybe run into some wildlife. And by that, I mean, like, actually smash your car into a deer or something like that. But
and that would not be good for you. Certainly not good for the deer.
more of a natural risk than a man-made consequence kind of deal out there, right? So
yeah, that's just an unfortunate scenario that could happen to anybody who's just regularly commuting and following the law.
Right? Yeah. So nature isn't biased on man's laws, that's for sure. But I like more urban street racing type stuff, no, I don't like pull up to people at stoplights and give them the old, are you ready to fly? I don't do that.
I guess that's the reason why I brought it up, is because I did that once. And
I have done it. But once again, this is like a really rural town where like between stoplight to stoplight, you might see another car, maybe on that block. You might see a car within the next 6 miles, right?
Chances are slim.
Chances
and even if you did, they'd be like, yeah, go, boy.
Right. So if you and the other guy are racing and an accident happens, you are both taking the risk. It's not such a big deal. Whereas in more urban settings where there's other people that are just innocent bystanders who may be just living their normal life, right? Not even participating in your event, can be affected by it. I'm not down with that. Like, if you're in an urban area, I guarantee there is somewhere legal to go race. I promise. It's out there. Dirt track, circle track, drag strips, autocross. You want it, you can go out and find it, and it's legal and it's fun. Go do
safe.
that. Safe. Well, relative, relative safe, right? They do have safety measures put in place. It's probably safer than going out with your 3-point OEM safety harness and airbags, right? But yeah, drag racing is fun. I really get into that. I'm more of a fanboy, I guess. I do have that race engine, and I was trying to put together a drag race car prior. I have the urge. Life had gotten in the way a little bit for the last few years. I definitely want to do autocross and things like that. But right now I'm kind of focused on finding land, and then I'll get back into the project sort of thing. So
I've never heard the term autocross before.
Autocross is amazing. So you literally go find a big, huge, empty parking lot with no light poles, or if there are light poles, you make them part of the course, but you just set up cones and have a guy with a timer and see who can get through the cones the fastest.
Wow. And they just do all sorts of turns and
you can set it up. Some people go as far as to like have like a GPS thing and they set it up proper to a spec track, or you can just set up your own and whoever has the fastest time has the fastest time.
Wow.
They have different competitions in it, like stop boxes where you have to get up to like 65 miles an hour and then do some weird turns and try to stop in a box, or fancy J-turn challenges where you try to do a handbrake into a parking spot without hitting any cones or anything. Fun stuff like that. So it's a time trial, but it's a very short, tight technical course, so it's really about handling and driver ability more than like a spec race would be. Definitely not like NASCAR.
Yeah.
So
turn left.
I've got nothing wrong with NASCAR. There's some mad driver skill, 200 miles an hour, bumper to bumper, getting pushed, getting shoved, this way and that, timing.
Not to mention the temperature. Those cars get hot. The internal gets hot. You're wearing a suit that protects you from fire,
it's a
which is
battle
hot.
of attrition, right? Like between the driver and the car, the mechanics have to come in and they got to hit them pit stops perfect, get your tires changed out. Don't run too hard through the corners so you're not burning your tires up too fast and you're not wasting gas. Bump draft, there's a lot going on in NASCAR, so I do respect it as a sport.
I used to not respect it, I'll admit it. I mean, just like a lot of people in the United States, they don't understand it. And I was certainly one of those people, but then I saw the movie Cars by Pixar.
I love that
and
movie.
I fell in love with it.
Great series.
It's so good. And it was my son's favorite movie for a really long time.
Yeah.
And so, of course, I was really excited when I also took interest in it because, one, I love animation. That's what I do as a job.
Right.
And so when you can mix two things, like my son loves cars now and he loves monster trucks, and then he also enjoys watching these movies.
Oh yeah.
And then I can get into it too. That's amazing.
Yeah.
Unfortunately, I also have 2 daughters, and so far the older one doesn't really seem interested in many of the things that I'm interested in, so I'm forcing myself to take interest in them, which is a little bit of parental advice. Everybody who listens to this knows that I give advice, and it's usually not the best, but if I did give one piece of parental advice, it would be rather than trying to force your kids to get interested in something that you're interested in already, you just try to adopt your interests to be more in line with theirs, because their interests are up and coming and changing and evolving, and you want to be able to provide the support that they need.
I think there's a bigger nugget of wisdom for life there. It is just sometimes your interests aren't top priority, right? Like for any relationship that you're in, sometimes you really just have to, okay, I don't mind this pie in the face. Let's just have it, and I'll take it, and we'll have fun, right?
Yeah.
A lot of give and take in relationships, especially when you're a parent.
So when you do find some land and you do start getting to work on your drag racing, what kind of racing will you be doing with your drag race car? Is it just the strictly like go and you have to beat somebody else off the line and to the finish line? Is that what drag racing is?
Yes. So it's a standing start. You're both at the exact same place when you start, and they've got it set up with like lasers that your tires will come through and break the beam, so they know exactly where you are. There's a staging beam, and then there's an actual like I'm ready to go beam. There's a tree of lights, and at the top of the tree they've got like two sets of 2 yellow lights to show you where your car is as you're pulling up to that staging line, and to let you and your competitor know that you're both ready, depending on how professional or how your sanctioning body does it. You may have a limited amount of time at the tree when you both get set up. Like professionals that are doing the top fuel will have like less than a quarter second or something like that once they're staged, and it just goes like boom, time to go. If you go in, a little bit more hometown kind of 8th mile stuff versus quarter mile professional stuff, it might be like you get a 3-second delay or whatever. But the point of the lights at the tree is to show you, ready, set, go, basically, like yellow, yellow, green. Both take off on green, and then the first one to the finish line where they have another laser that you'll break for the timing system. First one there wins. You can be disqualified for leaving early. You can have lots of issues, mechanically throughout the track, and then you have a certain area to slow down because you're going generally pretty fast by the end of the track.
Okay. I knew that that's what it was. I was having a brain fart sort of like that lady who couldn't shut her garage door. But I got confused because you were talking about autocross, and I started thinking about drift racing.
Drift racing. That would be fun, too.
Can you do the drifting in the autocross courses? Because I imagine there's all sorts of vehicles that enter those types of courses.
I would say that you could maybe put a drift car in an autocross and an autocross car in a drift race, but they're separate things. Drift racing is really about style points, right? You really want to show off.
Yeah. Impress the judges kind of thing.
Whereas there is some time trial to it. Mostly it's style points, though, right? Like you need to be able to keep up with the pack, but you need to be able to burn more rubber off of your tires, get closer to the objects that you're trying to avoid.
Yeah.
That kind of thing. Whereas autocross is just straight time challenge most of the time. You're really trying to drive tight, no style points whatsoever. If you do a burnout, people are going to be like, oh, that's cool, but you're not going to get any points from the judges or anything.
Yeah.
But yeah, the thing I like about the automotive world is that there are so many different genres and things to get into. Down in Australia, it's super popular. It's getting more popular here, but they literally just have burnout contests. They go and buy the most ridiculous large engines with the biggest blowers, and they put them on these tiny little cars, and all they do is just burn the tires, doing circles and skids and making smoke until the tires blow up, right? And they've got like different compounds of tires that can make different colors of smoke. And that's all they do is just skids all around, burning off tires until they blow up, until the tires blow off or
I love Australians. You gotta love Australians. They're crazy, man.
Man, 0 F's given there.
They're right below the ozone hole. Like there's already all sorts of problems with your atmosphere. Let's just do a whole bunch of burnouts, guys.
Right, yeah. And then they've got like all the bugs to contend with and everything, right?
Yeah.
I don't know.
So you're talking about the autocross thing, and then you were also talking about where you try to like park into spots using the e-brake, basically drift into certain parking spots. Was that part of that same autocross thing, or is that
you can do that at the autocross. It might even happen at the drift events as well, because that's something that, is kind of cool to challenge yourself to try to fit your car in between places.
Mm-hmm.
So there's a lot of crossover between these genres too in the automotive world. Like if you've ever been to a car show, you realize that there's the old-timey hot rods, and then there's the lowriders, and the new fancy high-dollar Italian sports cars or whatever, right? All sorts of different genres. But most thing I like about the car community is it's a community. It's not like back in the day where skateboarders and rollerbladers couldn't get along because there was a stigma and, silly stuff like that. Everybody comes together. Everybody helps each other out. Hey, you got this 3/8 fitting. Yeah, hey, here's one right here. I love the car community because it really doesn't matter what your passion is. Somebody else is going to be, at least respectful that you've got that passion and you've gone as far out or whatever you've done to do for your vehicle. Even if you're one of those like concourse people that just has to have everything exactly how it was out of the manufacturer, right? Like everything has to be just the way it was, no modifications whatsoever. To some people, that's really what does it for them, right? It's the opposite of boring. Like, oh man, look at this. This engineer decided to take the time to design this and do it this way and that. So
no, I get it. I'm kind of a stock guy. I don't even want to put bumper stickers on my cars, man.
I'm just a car nerd. That's what it is.
Yeah. I love that you mentioned the community because that is something that's really important. And I have been to Bandimere Speedway before where I've watched drag races.
Local.
And I loved it. I loved how you can be sitting 30, 40 yards away, and as soon as the green light turns on, you just get this rush of audio waves flowing at you.
Oh, yeah, and not just audio waves, but like sound pressure levels. These are real things, right? Like pressure levels from noise. You can feel it in your chest. You can feel it throughout your whole body, really. It's
it vibrates your soul.
Yeah.
It vibrates your soul. I totally understand the appeal, and I fully support you. And I would love to come to one of your drag races
That'd
at
be
some
awesome.
point.
Yeah, that would be great. I used to work in a shop where the owner was highly focused on mud racing, which is like drag racing in the mud with big trucks with big tires. And it was just amazing to go in and, get to work on some fun projects like that. He gave me time to work on my project while I was working there and stuff too. So it's just been something I've been into for a while. It was really fun whenever he would just fire up his truck, right? Because it was like really ridiculously loud and lots of horsepower. And, and like you were saying with the top fuel dragsters, it's just like it rocks you, like it gets you to your soul. So definitely been a big passion of mine for a while.
No, I love it, and it looks to be that my 4-year-old son is going to be interested in that sort of thing. In one way or another. I'm not even forcing it upon him. He just really loves monster trucks, and so I'm going to try to take him to a monster truck show here soon.
I think it's BXT or something like that. There's a college that if he really sticks through it and wants to get into it.
Yeah, that's a long ways away, but
or a university. I wouldn't call it a university. I don't know. I'm sure it's a tech school, but like you go in and that's all you study for is like either to be a mechanic for a race team or to be the driver for a race team or something like that, where you get to drive the monster trucks and go around on the tour, and that would be cool. But
one thing that I like about my family with the generation progression is the fathers have always been extremely supportive of the kids. So my grandfather knew that my dad wanted to be a pilot at the age of 2. And for his birthday, my dad would ask to go to the airport and just watch the planes take off.
That's cool.
And my dad is now a commercial pilot. my dad also then gave me that same support when he knew that I wanted to do something with cartoons or something with drawing or some sort of art illustration type thing. And he went all in with helping me sign my student loans and whatnot. And he let me do my thing, and I ended up getting a job in the career, and I'm going to do the same for my kid. So whatever it is he wants to do, whether it's, go to monster truck school or become a doctor, I'd rather him actually go to monster truck school than go to medical school. But hey,
whichever one makes him more happy, that's what we're after, right?
Exactly. Yeah, I'm not going to pressure him either way. I will have my preferences, and I'll give him some of my opinions, but I'm not going to pressure him.
Right.
He can do what he wants. Well, awesome, man. I love this, and I want to be a part of your auto community as well. Like, this just sounds like fun. I just want to get out of the house. Just like you went to Vegas, I want to start going to all sorts of things because I want my kids to experience all sorts of wonderful stuff that this world has to offer.
Man, experience. That's what it's all about right there. Trying new things. So
my hobbies have been, podcasting, which is very intimate and less social community-wise, and then jiu-jitsu at a small school, which is a little bit more of a community, but still very intimate. I want to get out there. I want to experience some other things. Have something to talk about on this damn thing.
Just going out to car shows is a great way to start. You know, if you'd like, we can go out there and do that.
That's
a lot cheaper than going out and getting into the racing thing for sure.
Let's do it. That's what I was saying. Let's do it.
Cool, man.
We'll take my son with us. He'll love that.
I want to get into go-karts. I just build a couple go-karts and go play around. It should be fun.
Oh, yeah.
We'll do that.
Go-karting, that's a whole nother thing. All right, players. Thank you so much for listening. Keep grinding, keep playing, and we will catch you at the next checkpoint. Experience life, bro. Bye.
Later.